minds think alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. Let's rock. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. You're now tuned into.
All right, welcome to the Great Minds Podcast. This is Derrick.
This is Vaughn.
And we're here with Keith Nweze. What's good, brother?
Peace. How y'all feeling tonight?
Chilling. How you?
Chilling, man.
Can't complain. It's a blessing to be with y'all.
Same here.
Same here. All right, so we're going to give a brief introduction on Keith, author, poet, and we're here to talk a little bit about his book called Struggle. Looking forward to tapping in and getting your thoughts on that. So welcome to the show, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Keith, before we get into all that, why don't you tell us a little bit of your background, just in general?
Oh man, I'm from Essex County. I spent a little time in Montclair, a little time in Irvington, a little time in Maplewood. I've been living in Newark, New Jersey for the last 10 years. Worked for the city of Newark. NJCU graduate, although I spent a brief second in Montclair State.
It dipped off on us.
I had to handle my business in Hudson County.
Yeah, no doubt.
I started writing, man. I found my voice, my right hand in 2006. I published my first project, which is titled Raw Thoughts of a Wise Dumb Man in 2009. And 5 books later, here I am. They're still trying to add on. I write for my people. I write for positivity. I write for awareness, and I write to connect.
No doubt. Keith, I wanted to talk to you briefly about like your upbringing. About growing up. We all know. I know you from playing ball. You know what I'm saying? That's how I know you. From Montclair too as well. But how was that like your upbringing? And how did you find the arts? Were you dabbling into that earlier?
Nah, honestly, I identify myself as a basketball player. God gave me a little bit of ability, so it blinded me from my true ability as a writer, as a communicator. So, when I grew up, my central focus was playing basketball and chasing women and listening to hip hop music. I didn't really take education serious until later on in life. And, that's one of my regrets. And one of the reasons why I do what I do, just to let us know that there's more to us, just the entertainment value and just the athletic aspect. We come from kings and queens. We're great thinkers. We contribute a lot to civilization. So my background is my foundation to what you see today. Absolutely. Even the aspects that I learned in basketball, the repetition that it takes to master mid-range shooting or understand mastering and handling basketball, I apply that to writing. I write daily, and that consistency and repetition has put me in a position to self-publish 5 books.
Oh,
yeah.
So what got you into it? What finally said, I'm gonna put this ball down, or not put the ball down, but just be like, you know what? Let me see. Like, what did it take for you to write down your first poem or writing piece?
No, that's a dope question. Number one, I listen intently to our great hip hop artists. I grew up listening to Nas. I'm talking intently, really breaking down the lyrics and understanding rhyme schemes and storytelling. Common, Rakim, even to our new school artists, Kendrick and J. Cole. So my foundation of rhyming and poetry was embedded by just what I love to listen to and what I was entertained by. In the year 2004, I got hired as a caseworker for a nonprofit organization called Community Access Unlimited. And there I met a coworker who was a Renaissance woman. She wrote poetry, she painted, played instruments, etc. And she wrote a poem bashing black males. And I instinctively stuck up for her. And that was like outside of my creative writing classes in high school, that was the first time I ever wrote poetry to express myself. And she did me the greatest favor in the world. She said I was dope. She grew confidence in my lungs. And from there, I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing. Like it was like a child learning how to ride a bike. And from that day, writing that one poem, 4 months later, I had amassed 100 poems.
Wow.
No doubt. You know, it's dope. You probably don't remember this, Keith, but I knew that you was an avid hip hop fan because you love Nas. Because I remember that I would say I don't know, 2001 maybe when Takeover came out. And Takeover came out, and then everybody was like all big saying, "Oh, Nas is done, Nas is done." I remember when Ether came out, and I remember it was on the radio. I believe Hot 97 played it first. Somebody played it first, and I remember hearing it, and I remember seeing you coming down saying, "I told you my boy wasn't done. I told you he wasn't done." Y'all had Ether. They kept on looping it. So that's kind of dope. That I remember that. I'm not sure if you do, but I remember that conversation.
No, I was smiling from cheek to cheek because I was in Bland Hall.
Yep.
And that was the energy. You know, that was a beautiful dormitory where we were all connected because of the way the dorms are configured. And when that Ether dropped in December 2001, it confirmed all of the lopsided arguments I was having with Roz and Los. Head over heels and Nas, and it was just me against them. And, you know, Jay-Z was performing with Blueprint.
Right.
Yep.
So rightfully so, he's one of our greats. But my dude from Queensbridge had something, you know, and
up his sleeve.
He dropped the Ether and then came back with the Illmatic. It was all the confirmation that I needed to know that I was on the right side of the argument.
Right. So I remember that. So as soon as I knew we was having you on, that's the first thing that popped into my mind, man. I remember that. I did have a question. I'm gonna get into the book, into the struggle book. So I see that you have it in chapters, right? Which I think is dope. But you have a chapter 1. And I think chapter 1 is titled, I believe, Night, if I'm not mistaken, right? And you go into that. Can you kind of elaborate high level on the thought process of you doing that, bringing it into chapters, and also starting off with that as the first?
My days start, for the last 14 years, my days start at night. I've worked 2 jobs, one in the social service field, rather be as a caseworker for diapers or in any other social service capacity, and the other one is a bouncer. And in this particular chapter, I wanted to capture that experience as a bouncer at Jersey Girls. I've been doing this for a long time, and that was literally my college education on how to diffuse confrontation, how to deal with a lot of people with different elements, celebrities, beautiful women. So I wanted to start the book off in a broader sense. I wanted to show the struggles of the people that I had to get home safe every night, that I had to pretty much diffuse all that issues and show the struggles that they go through, how and why they're here, and then what I have to go through to make sure that I'm maintaining law, rule, and order of the club. And another thing, each chapter essentially takes on the senses that I had to use in that chapter to survive. So the most important sense that I had to use is my eyes. And when you're in a club and you're a bouncer, people understand that you diffuse conflict by what you observe. Okay, you come at people what you observe. Respect should always be your forefront, should always be your number 1 representative, but you always got to see what's going on in front of you and you act accordingly. And that's even harder at night opposed to day because you have, obviously, you know, the dim background and the elements.
Right.
No doubt.
So also I have a question about that too. What's that experience like? Like you're in there. I mean, you're not like just dealing with like customers like at a Walmart. Like you're dealing with like women that, you know, have their bodies out. Like how do you maintain that focus?
Now that's a dope question. I mean, because honestly, it's a benefit to the job, but yeah, absolutely. But when you look at it as a whole, it's something that makes you really, really, really understand the depths of our damage, the depths of what slavery had to us.
Right.
How far we'll go to manipulate our bodies for a form of income, which is what slavery was for America. These women are very dynamic. I wanted to capture them as humans. I wanted to capture them as full, complete queens. You have women who are chasing the dollars, but you also have women who aspire to bigger goals. And to see the ones who are on the positive side, what they go through, and to defend the ones who are on the negative side, what they have to encounter is the struggle within the job. Because you always have to be the voice of reason. You always have to see something greater that they might not see in themselves. You have to try to instill respect into the customers who are violating these women. So it's a juxtaposition that it took a long time to really grasp it. I'll be honest with you, my first 2-3 years, I was very passive. I was in the background. Now, if a confrontation happened, I would play my part, but I wasn't as assertive because I knew it was a business transaction taking place. So how do I intervene, or does she need me? You know, and it took time to really understand the dynamic of a strip club, because I'm someone who doesn't go there unless I'm getting paid.
How'd you differentiate like somebody like violating a woman versus like, you know, them getting their money's worth? I should say.
Getting to know the woman, talking to, you know, I don't talk to Champagne or Cristal. I talk to Shantae, and I talk to Rochelle and Jack. You know, I get to know them.
Oh,
yeah.
And then, you know, I'm a presence. So when they see the quiet dude with the beard who never touches them, never disrespect them, that intrigues. You know, and we have conversations, and my questions usually lend to who are you and what you're about. And those conversations usually lend to a trust and a respect factor. So I get to know them. So over time, I can recognize facial expressions and body language and so on and so forth. And I'll come over and ask if I'm needing them. So I'll intervene. If not, I'll stand down.
No doubt.
that's dope, man. It sounds like it's an art to that.
It is.
It is. If you want to be safe and if you want to do a career, it's a stressful thing, and I'm on the backside of it. But it's definitely an art. People come into. I've been blessed enough to be doing it long enough to know that if you got to put your hands on someone, you're not doing the job right. Now, it's situations that might put you in that mode, but 8 times out of 10, you can diffuse it with your presence and how you come at it.
Right.
True. So after chapter 1, chapter 2, you know, it's called a day, right? So in the day now, let's see how you transitioning from the nighttime job, and now you're talking about the daytime job, right? But still had the same components into it, because it's still trauma associated with it, because you're seeing a lot of different things, right? So this, you talked about working at Child Protective Services, right? So how was that transition to see what you're seeing, dealing with that, and then going to your nighttime job, seeing that, and how did that help you into your interactions with your little ones or kids that you might know and things that you're seeing? How did that affect that?
That's a layered question. I gotta
yeah.
move. I mean, usually I go from night and day within a 3-hour span. Okay. All right, a 3 to 4 hour span. I'm getting off at 2. I'm getting home at 2:30. Close my eyes, and next thing you know, it's 6:37, and it's daytime, and I'm transitioning from a bouncer to now a caseworker, to where now I'm dealing with people who dealt with the cause and effect trauma that happened in the night. You know, mom and dad was drinking at night. They went home, and sadly enough for our beautiful kids, they went home inebriated, and they did what they did, and now they're in my care. You know, I'm transporting them to temporary foster homes, or psychological evaluations, or to visitations with their parents. That experience, I was such a young kid, young man. I was 24 when I first got hired at DIFAS, so I still was learning myself. That taught me and shaped me. DIFAS, TGMP covers the whole state.
Right.
So on Monday, you can find yourself in Rahway Prison. Wednesday, you can find yourself in St. Peter Psychological Evaluation. You can find yourself all over the place with different kids, with different traumas. And why I titled it Day, because unlike at night where everything is dark and the elements are there, I have to use my eyes. Day, everything is shiny, it's in front of you. I have to use my ears. I have to be able to listen to stories. I have to listen to where your voice tones. I have to listen and look at your body language and the subtleties that you do, because everything that happened to you was already in front of me. Now we're in the healing and connecting process. So, both jobs, there's an art form. And both jobs, I believe social service is what I do, is what I was blessed to do. Yeah. And it was the trial and error, learning myself, having people teach me, and this time that allowed me to balance both of them.
Definitely. I always say that, like, doing those two professions that you just stated that you did, it takes a special person to do it, because not everyone can be a bouncer and deal with that. And not everyone can work in social services, right? Because you're seeing so many different things, and that you got to have to be a good listener and a good observer. So I seem like talking to you right now, and I knew this back in the day, but seeing it now more than ever, you're a good listener. You're listening. You're observing to a lot of different things. So I think that's a key component that allow you to be successful in those roles.
Yeah, let me add to that. If you don't listen at being a bouncer, you're gonna get yourself hurt.
Right.
If you come and say, after you say, hey, what's going on? How can we solve this? And you don't listen and understand the depths of what this person's saying, or pick up on the angle or the rage in their voice, then you're gonna make a wrong move and you're gonna find yourself on the wrong side of it. If you don't listen to these kids when they say, my foster parent is not doing this, not doing that, you're going to put them in a situation where they're getting double neglect and double abuse, and you're going to put them in a situation that defies their whole life. So my work, my professional, my 16 hours, or I think it was my 13 hours out of the day, I really had to listen, or it was going to be some real dire results that I was going to have to live with. And, it was something that helps me as a person, helps me as a father, back to your question, listening to my kids, helps me with this right here, when you talk, I have to listen to understand where you're coming from to answer you appropriately. And I believe this is why I'm writing and why I like to do this, because this is what I want us to do, is to listen to one another.
Right.
We listen to one another. These homicides will go down, the unification will get stronger, and we'll return back to kings and queens.
Definitely.
As you navigate in both of those jobs, how did that wear on your psyche? I mean, obviously you figured out how to do both, but like you're still a human. So how did that 4 hours, 5 hours rest work on your psyche?
It's big effects: high blood pressure, elevated thyroids from lack of sleep over extended period of time, mood swings that goes from not sleeping. Sleeping is the best medicine, and then the high level of stress. So in the bouncing, especially at Jersey Girls, everything goes from 0 to 60. It goes from just you looking at a beautiful woman dancing, listening to some music, to, all right, they brawling over there. And your heart rate, goes. And similar with the day job. And then you don't even factor in what you're dealing with at home. So it's had big effects. I definitely sit down and talk to someone. I go to therapy.
That's great.
It's been extremely helpful. I would definitely recommend that to my kings and queens out there. We don't know everything. Sometimes we need that neutral person, with that education to kind of fill in the blanks to where we kind of come up short. And I constantly work on myself. I use my art as therapy. I use my art to see what I'm thinking and feeling, rereading it and capturing it, and then putting out in the world, seeing what I was thinking and feeling, what effect that has on my brothers and sisters.
No doubt. I think what you said was key about seeking help sometime and having therapy, talking to somebody. Because I think what we do as men, especially as Black men, are just in the culture in general, we frown upon that sometimes. Like, no, I'm not going to talk to anybody. We're going to keep it in the house, keep it internal. All that does is fester. And when it festers, it explodes in a different way. So you might get mad about something that you shouldn't get mad about, something small, and it can cause further problems along the line. So I think I commend you for saying that, and I think we all should do that. Like, I don't care who you are, we should check that out.
Absolutely. You know how many brothers and sisters are sitting in our penitentiary systems that's literally and really good brothers and sisters that just had 15 seconds of rage or misplaced
Bad decision, right?
Whole bottling up, internalizing things, and then run into something and loses it, and soon it's like you had that 15 seconds where you lose yourself, then you snap back into it, but now you got to deal with 15 years of consequences.
Right.
There's no way you can be a African American man or woman and not suffer a high level of trauma in America.
Definitely. So I wanted to transition to chapter 3 as well. So this chapter is kind of, based on what I saw, it's kind of layered. So this is the home one. So could you elaborate just on that? And I think the fact that, of course, we haven't had a chance to read it yet, but seeing the forward, you've been very transparent with what you're writing down. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important that you're putting everything out there. So we like to elaborate on that chapter about the home life.
I mean, the home is something that I wanted, that I tried everything in my power to build, maintain, and sustain. But ultimately, what I want to show in that chapter is that when your communication isn't right, it can lead to a very destructive end. And in that chapter, essentially, if you go through the book, I put myself in a compromising position at DIFUS, which essentially I get fired, charges are levied against me, and now I'm holding a criminal record without really the experience of how to navigate that. And you try to rehab your life, try to gain employment, you try to gain housing, you try to utilize your under the table money and get the soil license renewed. All right. And you're getting that big sign that's saying your criminal past, we won't let you move forward. And in the home, I'm trying to sustain everything I have. At this point, I'm with a very beautiful young lady, and she has 2 kids. So now not only am I a father of my 2 kids, but I'm also a stepfather. And I'm raising 4 kids. I'm supporting another woman. I have all of these on my shoulders, which I asked for, and I was able to maintain for 8 years. But then my dumb decision took away my financial security, and stress comes in. And you find yourself in a position where you're not communicating clearly, and you find yourself in a position to where you do the worst level of communication possible. And no matter if I engage, I initiate it, unfortunately, I have a domestic violence story to my life. The most shameful thing that I can ever claim. But I have to do it. I have to lay myself out there for that young boy and that young girl that's coming up under me.
Right.
All right, to let them know the importance of listening and effective communicating, you know. And essentially that chapter, it chronicles me navigating the unemployment system, me navigating all of these children on just a bouncing salary, and then ultimately the destruction of my relationship with my daughter's mother. And it ended very bad. Thankfully, she's a very dynamic and strong woman, and we were able to connect, and she's doing well.
Dope.
It's good. It's dope.
How'd you get yourself out of that rough patch? I know, like, when you're going through it, it seems like ages. You're trying to figure out ways to get yourself out of it legally. How'd you manage to get yourself, or like, just get yourself out of it? I know you can like feel sorry for yourself. There's a range of emotions that you can go through, but how'd you finally push through and navigate that?
You still push through it. How did I get myself out of it? I'm optimistic by nature, so that's an advantage I have in these very trying situations. I believe that the sun will shine, that there's a better day ahead of me. So I never get too low, but this wasn't something that I grew up with. I didn't grow up with my mom and dad or my mom and stepfather laying hands on one another, or the nonsense that takes place in a very destructive relationship. So, I mean, I had to confide in people that were older than me. I had to listen. I had to look in the mirror. I had to take it in. I had to be honest of what the part I played in it and not worry about the part she played in it. I will say I never initiated any of those domestic violence situations. So that was very awkward with me. But what I did initiate, I cheated. I brought that to the equation, and she responded accordingly. So I was in a situation like a lot of women find themselves in, to where you're being attacked and you have the kids, you're the breadwinner, and you felt like, all right, but I did cheat, so maybe. And I had to learn that it's not all right. I had to learn if you do accept it, you're gonna turn into the monster that you fear. And it definitely took time. There's no real quick remedy to it outside of that. I just submitted to my wrongs, and I was willing to listen to anyone willing to help.
Definitely. It seems like it was like some self-accountability. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the one thing that as men, a lot of times that we don't do sometimes, to say, what did I do for this to happen? And then also we talk about energy, right? We talk about keeping good energy around you, positive energy around you. So it could be certain things where you weed out other things. You weed out the bad energy, whatever that is, and only good energy comes in, only good things are going to happen. So that could be in the sense of, that could be drinking, it could be smoking, it could be anything. You know what I'm saying? That can take your focus off what you're doing. So did any of that play a part? What you was going through with the stress of everything that you was doing? And then was it like drinking more, smoking more? You know how it goes. Did that play a part in anything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not a drinker. I smoke. So I definitely did more of that. I overindulged, and what happens, you get stagnant. So these plans that you have, you're not executing them. You have all these ideas, but you're not really putting feet to the ideas.
Yeah.
So you're stagnant. So that definitely was it, because it's like essentially where where I ended, I submit to depression, where I didn't feel like, I was worthy, or I didn't feel no energy to do anything. And I definitely understood how some of the people that got their kids taken from them in diapers, how they ended up there. Because, a bad argument can tear your whole family apart. And take your kids to another county or another town and have you on visitation schedules when you were seeing them 7 days a week. And all of it. And then, I have a beautiful son and a beautiful daughter. And, that's out of another relationship. So I was juggling 2 different dysfunctional relationships at a time. And I definitely indulged to kind of pacify or kind of forget about what's going on at the time. Absolutely.
Definitely.
I also in before you had to rebuild the relationship with your kids. How'd you go about doing that? Because like kids are young, but they're just like, they're so intuitive, and they're so like they build that stuff. Yeah, they know stuff. They're a lot more advanced than we give them credit for. And you have to get their trust early, or you don't get it. So how'd you rebuild your relationship with your kids?
Well, I'm happy to say that it is definitely come 180. My son, he came by last Friday. He's 15 years old, got the D.
Oh, wow.
That's dope.
Yeah, I'm very proud. Kids, they come from us, but they're not us.
Right.
Own people.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And like you said, the blessing of it, I was there since infancy. I held them. I changed their diapers. I really invested time. Forget the Jordans, forget the money, forget the vacation. Just the simple reading books, cooking dinner, or just basic small things is what's in back of them. So as long as you don't do nothing grotesque, do nothing that you can't overcome from, they're always gonna have a love in their heart for you. You just have to submit to what you did wrong, and you have to really own it.
Right.
And when I spoke to my son, I definitely own mine, and why I'm smiling from ear to ear, he owned his, and that's impressive for such a young
maturity, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it gives me hope. It gives me hope not only for him but for our future. But it, they see me at my high, and they see my lows, and my son, he didn't ask to, my poor decision making. He had to just endure everything from it. And within all of that, within my self-reflection time, that's something that I had to really analyze and come to grips with. Even his mother, she didn't ask for my poor decision making. All right. We had an arrangement, and I was able to uphold that for 10 years. But when it comes to emotion, there's not a lot of equity.
True.
It's what you did yesterday. And I had to learn that. And even, I'll be honest, in these cameras, I was bitter for a second, to be put on child support 11 years later.
Yeah.
Like, I've been here, man.
Yeah.
And you think you have some equity invested of time and everything you've done, but truthfully, as a man, and this is, we all kings here, you're only as good as you are today. And I put my position where I wasn't on that throne. And I have to own that to mend the relationship with my kids.
No doubt. I always say presence over presence. You know what I'm saying? So kids gonna remember that time you spent with them than those Jordans that you buy. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a lot of things that a lot of fathers try to do. They'll drop off some money if they're not with the mom or something like that. They drop off some money, buy my little man some sneakers, buy him some clothes, but he ain't spending that time. That presence is what the kid really wants. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope. This kind of goes into your last chapter. You know, the me chapter. You're talking about building that relationship up. You know, with your son and your daughter. So it seems like it's going great, which I'm glad to hear that, because I always think, you know, especially a son, you know, a son needs his father. You know, and I say it all the time, and we spoke about this previously before in the episode, but like a woman can't teach a boy how to be a man. She can teach him as much as she but it's nothing worse to me when I see a 14-year-old and his mom say, "Oh, that's my man. He's the man of the house." No, he's not. He's 14 years old.
That's my king.
That's my king. Nah.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, do you think?
When I was around you brothers in 2001, what you were around was a young boy who never had a father, that never had a connection to Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Respect, but you didn't see the depths of what I was holding here, because I didn't even see it in myself. And when you say, you made such a golden point, you know, our kids need both parents. Mm-hmm. As they grow older and they get out in the world, and I'm speaking of our young boys, they need the father to transfer experiences, to help them navigate all the bullshit they're going to encounter. They need us to be honest. They need that base,
right?
With the delivery, that presence that unfortunately our queens had to be for hundreds of years. And we love y'all. Y'all have did y'all thing. Y'all have did more than y'all think. But we need y'all just like y'all need us. And we need y'all to understand that it's going to take both of us.
Right.
And I agree with that. Even me, like, you know, I was one thing for a minute, but, you know, my father is a prince in Nigeria.
Wow.
Okay.
You know, I come from a strong lineage that I had no connection to until I was 28, 27.
Wow.
And that limited me. That limited me as a basketball player. That limited me as a student. That limited me as a young man. You know, I was always playing. I was always functional with one hand on my back because of a lack of awareness. That's my whole motivation, to understand who we are. Mm-hmm. Because it's a plan. I know I'm going elsewhere, but I believe it ties itself in together. But it's a plan to what they have going on, to separate man from woman, father from mother. Right. It's a plan. It comes from a study that our professors in college taught us. That they got lost at sea and befriended us and studied, and were amazed by our intellect, our intelligence, amazed by our cultural practices, amazed by our advancements. And they took that study and they did what they did. They used it for their advantage, and they understood that even, now another thing I want to point out, I know I'm going all the way, but I'm very passionate about it.
No doubt.
Another thing that they did is they mixed tribes purposely so we can communicate to revolt. So when you talk about the worst moment of my life, you're talking about poor communication.
Right.
That comes from there. That comes from me being Nigerian and she being Kenyan, and she getting raped and she asking me for help but can't use the language to ask me. Yeah,
you're in a whole different set of time right there.
Yeah. That's built up from it. So, right. I mean, yes, women, we need y'all and y'all need us.
Word.
Sorry about that.
Nah, you good, man.
You good, because I can speak from personal experience. Like my stepfather, my biological dad, I haven't seen since I was 7 years old. A lot of people don't know that, you know, but my stepdad is my dad, who I call my dad, who basically, since I was about, I think I met him when I was around 2. But him being that father figure throughout my life, I had uncles and stuff like that, but him being the main father figure helped me with work ethic. I saw how he worked every day. I saw what he did. I saw how he treated my mom. I saw how all that stuff happens. That helped me evolve as a man as I got older. So I'm doing things that he was doing and not knowing. So he was always teaching me stuff. And even though he worked hard, I didn't understand why dad always at work. Now I get it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So when we sit back and talk now, we kick it. He's like, I see you in me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I act like him with certain things. So it's funny how, you know, it's so important to have that male figure. And I say if I didn't have that figure, and me and my mom real tight, always been tight. But at a certain age, you kind of start tuning stuff out. So you start tuning your mom out or your grandma, whoever it is, because now you think you're a man. Like, you know.
Your voice tones, your mannerisms, the things that you're into, the things that she's into are different.
Yep.
What happens is the mother does a beautiful job because they're our emotional womb. So as little boys, they nurture us. They make sure we got our medicine and we brush our teeth and we eat our vegetables.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get, as boys, once we get to a certain age, we want to explore the world.
Yep.
We want to get dirty.
Yeah.
We want to do physical things.
Yep.
That innately is not in every woman. Some women have that ability, but most women, they stray another way. Study tells us that women intellectually, they mature faster than us.
Yep.
They do. They grasp onto the arts quicker than us. You know, one of my biggest regrets as a man, I have like 2 or 3, but my biggest regret is that I didn't start writing poetry until I was 25, 26 years old. I honestly tell you, I'll be a whole different, I always go back to basketball player. I would be a whole different basketball player how I was writing poetry then.
Yeah, it all connects. Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt.
I don't know. Do you listen to Sky Zoo at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So he has a song, and we had him on the show. I don't know if you know that, but we had him on the show right when he dropped the Father's Day album, and that song, like the Turn in 10 song, that's exactly what we're talking about, and that goes back to like the Boys in the Hood, where mom dropped him off. She didn't want to drop him off, but she knew like she could only like she got him to that point. So that's, you know, that's in line with what you're saying, but you got to have that good co-parent relationship to even make that happen though.
Communication.
You know and back to the communication.
And back to what this brother said, self-awareness. Mom knew that she raised him to a point, but let's also add this in, which goes back to chapter 1. Mom knew in Boys in the Hood that I got to go to school to be my best self.
Yeah, get my degree.
That if I can go to school and maintain this job, that I can have that fancy apartment that Trey was sitting in when he was 17. You know what I mean? Opposed to where they were staying there. And that takes self-awareness and sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes what I've experienced, we get caught up in the titles of mom and dad that sometimes we're not willing to relinquish those titles for the betterment of our kids.
Right.
That's true. That's a fact.
And the title becomes bigger and more important than what's better for our kids reaching their potential.
Right.
Where it's that pride, man. It's that pride that the person has, and you gotta swallow your pride, because pride done kill a lot of people out there. You know what I'm saying? And I always feel if you have more than just your pride, you go further. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause think about people that if you come from a certain area, all you have is your name. That's all you have is your name. If someone says something about your name, those smart in your name, that's it. It's a 10. But if you come from somewhere where it's like, yeah, I don't care what he said, I got this going on. You don't care about that. And that person more than likely goes further than the person that just thinks about pride. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me tell you this. That's y'all two. Right. And everybody in your crew. And everybody that you would link with in another school or anywhere else. That's people who had an understanding of where they were at and where they wanted to go in the moment.
Right.
And took advantage. Now, I graduated 15 years after I entered college. Now, I had to go on my path. I put out books in between, but I didn't understand the moment and where I wanted to go. I didn't have the awareness. I wasn't writing poetry. Even social service, I stumbled into that. You know? Wow. And when I got there, I realized it. So I just wanted to give you your flowers while it's here. Even what you have, this platform, that's understanding that I have a voice. we have an ability that people are comfortable with us. So let's develop a platform to where not only we can get to know one another, but we can talk about dynamic topics.
Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that, man.
So just on a lighter note, I feel like we've been going real heavy. What you want? Nah, man.
It's great. It's a great talk.
Like, we like to get people's stories, but we also like to, whether it's athlete, actor, like, we want to know what people are doing outside of their actual, like, skill set. You know what I'm saying? So what are you watching on TV? Anything?
With me, it's still ESPN. Well, I'm an HBO dude.
Okay.
So anything they produce a high level of writing.
Right.
So anything HBO produces, I usually check it out. I don't grasp at everything. Like, I'm still trying to get into that Lovecraft joint.
Yeah. I watched like the first scene and I was just like, what is this? But more people have been saying, like, I'm gonna give it a shot.
I'm two episodes in, and
it's weird, right?
It's very weird. But what it has is that's kind of dope. It has it goes back to like the 1950s and 60s. So you see the racism that's popping up. That plays a part in it too. But it's like a horror. It's like when the back way is horror, like a horror film. It's like, it's weird, but
It wasn't what I read. They're infusing different historical. Like the slaughter in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or the Emmett Till situation. So they're infusing that with the horror aspect. And like you're saying, like, I really sat down and really tried to dig into it. And I'm like, it's not catching me.
Man, what I'm watching right now, I've been watching Ghost, the Power joint. I've been watching that, catching up on that. And then besides that, ESPN, football. CNN right now. See what's popping. That's kind of what I've been doing. Like, I'll keep CNN on. Wifey like, yo, why are you playing CNN all day? I'm like, I just want to hear what's going on. Like, I might not be watching it necessarily, but I want to hear, because a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. They trying to pull something over our eyes. You know what I'm saying? So that's about it. How about you, Derrick?
To be honest with you, what's wild is I'm evolving. I'm getting old. So CNN is on mine. As soon as it pops up, that's my movie. And then that's when I work at 5:30. I watch Wolf, and I like Cuomo.
Cuomo crazy.
I like all these shows. I'm definitely trying to be in tune with what's going on. I dig into Fox too. I like outward racism. I dig Donald Trump. He's the worst for us and for what we got going on, but he's awakening all of these sleep black folks.
Right.
Advanced so far that racism no longer exists because racism has transformed. I'm back into the deep shit again. I apologize.
You good.
Transform is different now.
Yeah, they in the 60s, these kids, even when I got on Huey P. Newton, Malcolm X, etc., these is kids. They our age, when they died.
Right.
They took over stuff because, they was calling us, niggas and everything else. And they realized they can't do that anymore. What they have to do now is make it systematic. They have to water down the education system. They have to outsource all of the factories and make sure that, a high school degree no longer can, sustain a household. And they have to support the drugs. They have a war on drugs, which in turn gave them money because now they build prisons.
Right.
So we need that wall and all that garbage, he says, to remind us that nothing has changed.
Yeah, I do look at Fox sometimes too, because the outward racism is definitely hilarious. So like, I'll watch it and I'll hit to see what they're talking about, and they'll take something that's so small, like and flip it, and to see how they're looking at it and how they're viewing it and what they're showing. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe both sides of the media is always biased, right?
Right.
So what I do is I find a story, and then I dig on the story myself. So I'll see what happened, and then I'll look and see what's really going on. Okay, they left that out. This is what's going on. But when I watch Fox, though, it's completely slanted, though. Like, it sounds crazy when you're like, yo, that's a whole different world. I'm like, yo, what world are we on? But
they're not even trying to be partial.
Yeah, not even trying to.
They're catering to the Alabamas and they're catering to the Midwest and the South Dakotas. But I want us to watch that because we have to educate ourselves
on the other side of it.
Please. So when they pulling us over, we're not asking what I do, or we're not getting into these long, boisterous conversations and putting ourselves in a position to get killed.
Yeah, you know what time it is.
Like, we can still march over everybody that's been killed yesterday. I don't want no more marches and rallies if someone's going to get killed tomorrow.
Right.
Word up.
Right.
Study and understand how they coming at us.
No doubt.
We're better alive in the memory.
Right.
True. So how about musically, right?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
How about musically, Keith? What you on musically right now?
Disease, Nas, that's in rotation. I'm heavy on Griselda. I like what they do.
Absolutely.
They're crazy. Friday, I'm looking forward to Black Thought.
Is he finally dropping it?
It's coming out Friday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Because I know that was supposed to come out July, and then the guy Malik from the Roots passed, and he kind of wanted to, I think that happened like right before it was supposed to drop. But that's official?
It's coming Friday, so we all gotta be ready because
I'm looking forward to that.
And I like classics. I mean, I enjoy Jay Electronica's project.
The new one. I ain't like the first one with Hov.
You like the first one with Hov?
Nah.
I like both of it, but the first one with Hov felt like Nas's Nasir, that you try to rush and you try to put art into time. And what he said, he recorded that album in 40 days, 40 nights. It sounds beautiful. And here, this, that, and the third. Just like Nas, he recorded Nasir in 2 weeks. But you gotta rewrite. You gotta revisit. Art is bigger than us.
Right.
And sometimes you have instances where you'll write a bunch of joints and you'll feel like you can kill them. One take Hov. But that's not realistic. You know what I mean?
Another thing about like the Jay Electronica, I was talking to Chitty about it. We talk a lot about music. So he was just kind of like, and I agree with this. It's like it was so long. Everybody's been waiting for the Jay Electronica project or whatever. But like he took so long, and he was like, you know what? Let me bring Hov with me, just so that they know I'm official. That's what I feel like
for my stamp.
For my stamp, so that people can remember I was dope. And then when he dropped the other joint, like I'm like, yo, this is better. It sounded like he was in his bag. It sounded like, he didn't sound as rusty as I thought he sounded on the Hov joint. Just like, yo, it's cool. You should have dropped this first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
I think that was the plan. I agree with what you're saying. I don't believe he didn't have a structure of where he was going with the album. I think he infused a lot of Islamic terminologies and thought patterns, but it wasn't really a structure to what he wanted from that album. It sounded like the songs, and truthfully, it sounded like Jay-Z understood what he wanted to say, where he wanted to go. And he kind of brought him along with the ride. I think that's what really brought him. And Hov was great on it. But for the brothers' most anticipated debut album, first, you don't want to hear Farrakhan first, Hov second, and Jay Electronica third.
Right, exactly.
And that's what happened. Whereas the album that just released,
I enjoyed that a lot.
Cooked. And I read, he wanted him to get a radio single, and he climbed into a shell, a 10-year shell. Where we are today.
Right. But I'm surprised that someone like Jake, the way music is going now, the way art is, right? And we go back to the whole Griselda thing too, because like we basically feel, I know Derrick, I'll speak for myself, but Derrick probably agree with me as far as like, I think what they did or what they started doing 4 years ago or 5 years ago, they changed the whole landscape of how music would start coming out. And what we were looking for is treating it as art. Mm-hmm. So meaning like, RZA did that with the album, the Wu-Tang album that sold for all this amount of money. But music is art. So once I started looking at it that way, I started accepting what I received.
Yeah, you consume it differently.
I consume it totally different. So before I would go, why you only give me 8 tracks? Give me 10, give me 12. But I'm like, you know what? Nah, 8 might be 8 just right. Because for them, because what they're doing, they're putting these pieces out. So I think, like with Jay Elect, I think that why would you need a radio hit? Because the radio really ain't playing. Nobody listens to the radio anymore. The radio is something that I'm not even sure is still on. Like, I mean, like like Breakfast Club, everybody check them out, you know what I'm saying? But Hot 97, check them out. But no one's really running to the radio. You're streaming everything.
Yeah,
like
not for music anyway.
For music. Somebody's going to YouTube. So why would you really need that radio hit? You know what I'm saying?
To add to you, his frequency was so higher after Exhibit C.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was above what was playing on the radio. You just had to follow through with music, with content.
That's
And
it.
as we hear, you have that, but it's politics of everything. That's why, I formed Walk-Off LLC to control my content. But what happens is, if I want to control my content, I have to invest in it. And with young artists, especially yesteryear, nowadays you can get into music. You don't need the huge investment.
No, not at all.
You need your phone, Spotify, and all this stuff, and then, build your following. But yesteryear, these artists we're talking about, you needed advancements. You needed advance for studio time and for production and for everything that it would take to even get to the masses.
Right.
And unfortunately, he didn't have the power to really dictate his situation. And he didn't have, at the time, Hove was trying to break in Rock Nation, so they needed a certain number, all right? So the investors could invest into that. So it's a business component that always ruins the art. Always ruin the art.
Yeah.
That's why artists, their best albums are always their first projects.
Right.
And then after they come, like, let's chase something.
No doubt.
All right, ready for this rapid fire?
Yeah.
All right, Keith.
Rapid fire now.
We end our show with a rapid fire section. This or that, open ended. So let's tap into this. I don't know if you remember. We met in high school at Memorial Park. That's where we used to play a lot, right? So, yeah. All right. So I got a good one for you, right? Who's the best player you played against at Memorial?
Man, that's hard. Brandon Knight came through there a couple times.
Okay, I don't think I was there. He was there.
It all depends, because if you we saying accomplished or this who I felt is the best. Fran was a great player.
I was gonna say Fran was like the first pick all the time. Like Fran and then V came on a little later, and then it was all like the OGs were Fran and then Claude. Like you wasn't getting in front of Claude.
Facts. Left-handed demon, left-handed beast. So those two brothers. I look up to them. Fran is 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
He took me under his wing. He put me in a position where I was getting picked third. So I was grateful for that and able to back that up. But Memorial was definitely a pillar. That's something. Actually, I'm gonna write a book about my basketball years, and it's gonna be a couple chapters I talk about Memorial, because it really brought Essex County to one spot. It became the hot spot where people were coming all over to get good running.
I used to walk down there from Newark, like all the way down the hill, because I grew up in the Ivy Hill section, so I would walk all the way through Maplewood. It was crazy.
Correct.
All right, that was my first. So you got Fran.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go on a different route, not with sports, but who's your all-time favorite author?
It's in between James Baldwin and Richard Wright. They're different writers. James Baldwin has the elongated sentences, multiple commas, and a period, and real dynamic. Whereas Richard Wright is extremely poetic and extremely clear, can kind of cut through and kind of say a lot in a very small amount of space. So
okay. No doubt.
All right, I got a Nas album question. I'm not gonna go the typical Illmatic. It was written way, right? Stillmatic or Life is Good? That's a tough one.
Very tough one. Very tough one, because they're both in my top 5.
Absolutely.
I would say Life is Good is probably a more well-rounded album.
Yeah, got a little bit of everything on there.
Stillmatic is a way more important album, because he was at a crossroads in his career. The doubt was there. Although, as a Nas fan, I didn't think Nostradamus was awful, but the masses has panned it awful, so he was coming off of that. And then obviously Jay-Z was Jay-Z. So that was the important album where I feel like Life is Good showed all ranges of him. So Life is Good.
All right. I'm like, with that being said.
All right. Got a basketball question for you. Better coach, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich?
Greg Popovich. Multiple styles, multiple he went from the high-low action with David Robinson and Tim Duncan to high screen and roll with Tony Parker to the three-point to drive and kick with Manu Ginobili, Brent Barry, etc. He evolved over time and he's still there. I mean, they just missed the playoffs. I think it was 20 years in a row.
Yeah, the streak is crazy.
For like a game or so. And I'm a Knicks fan, so I understand how stagnant Phil Jackson and the triangle can be. He wasn't able to evolve philosophy-wise and allowed himself to embrace a new game. And truthfully, that put us back 5 years. Now, Phil is great because the managed personalities is extremely important.
Right.
But I also believe Popovich did the same thing. He just didn't have the dynamic players that Phil had.
Right. Okay. Do you think maybe Popovich is better because it was a smaller market? Like, because Phil was in New York, Chicago, then L.A., then New York. Popovich is able to do that because he's in San Antonio. You know, no one's really checking for San Antonio like that as far as paper-wise. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
All you got to do to back up that argument is look at all the low first-rounders and second-rounders who became starters or Hall of Famers.
Facts.
I mean, Manu Ginobili is a first-time Hall of Famer, second-rounder. Tony Parker was an unknown end of the first round. And it goes on. Kawhi Leonard, they traded, and I think he was 16 or 17.
15 or something like that, yeah.
You know, that all of that goes into coaching, understanding talent, understanding who can play what role and fit into my system. And I believe over a longer period of time. Now, Phil is way more dynamic. Phil had Michael at his height, you know, won consecutively, and then had Shaq, you know, and then had another run with Kobe and Pau Gasol. So you can't knock that. But I just believe I would pick Greg Popovich.
No doubt.
Just from the coaching standpoint, I got you. All right, I got one more. Kendrick or J. Cole?
Shoot, man, Kendrick birthday June 17th. I'm June 16th, so I'm picking Kendrick. Now, there's nobody. If you look at the albums, you look at just the consecutive classics, the ability to make information entertaining. And that's what Tupac's real talent was. You don't get that a lot. J. Cole is extremely dynamic, extremely talented. He's one of my favorites. So it's no slight. But Kendrick is better than Drake, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Drake is now I don't say that to diminish Drake neither, but Kendrick is the leader of it. When he drops, everybody's on board, rightfully so, because he gives you art. You know,
our age.
And
that's all that matters.
For us, so I go with Kendrick, and I'm looking forward to whatever he's working on. I'm hearing that he's about to drop soon. So
I hope so.
Well, he needs to. All right, my last one. I'm gonna go on the music questions myself. Benny the Butcher or Conway?
Damn. Well, after Friday, after the Bird and the Proof album comes out.
Oh, that's gonna be crazy.
Listen,
I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Well, listen, Roz. You know, me and him are real strong, and he's a big Benny the Butcher fan.
Right.
Yes.
I believe Benny the Butcher is more dynamic punchline wise, more dynamic and, you know, metaphors and all that. But this riding the beat, connecting all the elements, flow, delivery, lyrics, and in sync, in pockets, I believe Conway is another level. And he actually showed other things on this album.
Yes.
Yeah, the content is not just like the coke rap and all this other stuff. He touched some pain.
He started doing that on Freddie Gibbs' album.
Yeah. Yep.
Gibbs' album, you know, that verse he put was extremely impressive, where he had the mirror on him, and I sent money to my son's mother, but she says I don't see him. Yeah, this is Griselda, and he threw it in there in a way that it was Pac-esque because it was still hard as hell. You know, You know, it was something. So I like Conway, but Friday can change that. You know, because Benny is tough as hell, and Hit Boy has been doing this thing as of late. So Friday, you can ask me this question next Monday, and I can be saying something different.
Well, my answer is whoever I heard last.
Yo, but I can tell you this much though: out of those two, I have never heard a whack verse in 4 years, yo.
Nah.
In 4 years, and that's crazy. You never heard a whack verse from somebody in 4 years. Some of our greats we don't say that about. You know what I'm saying?
Those dudes, and even let's go to the leader. Westside is a dynamic dude when you talk about putting it together.
It took me a while. It took me a while to.
I hated the dude.
Well, I tell you why. I tell you why. I wanted him to be like Benny and Conway. And then when I realized he's not that, like he picks the best beats, he puts the artwork together.
Art, the way he can put together a song, the way he can take people out of a different world, other rappers, and put them in his chambers. And if you really dissect his bars, he has some moments in there.
Yeah.
The voice and the delivery kind of throws you off. The ad-libs can distract you. But if you get into his pockets, he says some real sophisticated, intelligent stuff. Like he's no dummy.
No, not at all.
The character, you know what I mean, that's playing a role, but I believe there's something going on back here that, you know, when Hove and Eminem and all of them sit down, yeah, Benny and Conway is a talent, but they talk the West.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Those other dudes ain't in the room. You know, they talking the West. Right. So, you know, and that's what art shows you. You know, art comes from different elements, and if you really take your perception of what art is and you just judge it for what it is, you can find the beauty in all art.
Definitely. And that's
exactly.
As I got older and looking at music, looking at different things, that I found beauty in every artist at what they do. Now, I might not like everything. It might not be for me, but I never knock it. So I'm like, that's that art. Someone likes it. That's for somebody else. It's not for me. But like my man Conway said, he said, West had on the land, something like that. But I did the construction or something. He said,
yeah.
Absolutely. Now those brothers, those are the brothers I would love to shake their hand. When I was working in Jersey Girl, that was one of the advantages, that I got to have close access to a lot of celebrities. You know, me and Raekwon kicked it. That's still one of the highlight moments of my life, because I walked the school.
That's Raekwon.
And the reason being, this dude is so down to earth, is ridiculous, yo. Raekwon is cool as hell. Like, shake everybody's hand, no security, regular dude, and he's a legend.
Yo, my mom's met Raekwon, got his autograph when I was 14. I lost it. Yo, he wrote a big thing paragraph for me saying, "Vaughn, stay up, blah 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 blah." I'm like, yo, my mom said I met some dude at the jury spot. He said from the Wu-Tang. I'm like, who? He's like, Ray shit.
It's like Raymond.
I was like, I said you met Raekwon? He was like, yeah. I was like, yo, what? Was he still there? He's like, I don't know. But he's mad. He said he's mad cool.
Check this out. I was blessed enough to hang with him about 5 to 6 times.
Wow.
If you tell Ray that, I know enough of him to say this. If you was to tell him that story, he'd be like, let's take a picture right now. Let me sign something.
Wow.
You know? That's dope. I definitely would take that picture.
You know, that's one of our greats, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Word up, man.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up, man. It's been a pleasure, man. Great conversation.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. It's been too long.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, listen, I appreciate it. The conversation has been healing. It's been great vibes. I really respect what y'all are doing. Any way that I can help to just keep it moving forward, I'm here. I also want to shout out on your channel, because it's a Montclair State connection, that June 2021, Racine Poole will be publishing his first book, The Porter Family Problems.
Shout out to my guy Roz.
No doubt, Roz.
All right, Keith, if you want to shout out social media, website, anything you got going on, now's the time, brother. What you got?
You can check me out on rawthoughts.com. All the content is there. On Facebook, I'm at Keith Nweze, Nweze. What's the name? Instagram, I'm at Iam_King616. Twitter, I don't even know if I'm on there anymore. But it's on Amazon. Inbox me. Read not only my work, but read anything. Keep your mind healthy. Support Black artists, Black businesses. Listen to one another. Love each other. And remember, we come from kings and queens.
Never. No doubt. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, appreciate you. You can catch the Great Minds podcast, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Follow us on IG at the Great Minds Podcast, on Twitter at the Great Minds P1. Salute to Keith Nweze. Appreciate you, brother.
Word up.
Peace, y'all.
Great Minds Think Alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great Minds Think Alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great Minds Think Alike. Great Minds Podcast. Great Minds Think Alike. Let's rock. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. 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 Derrick Devon, old boy like Cam on a song. Culture safe now, thank God. The panic is gone. Time to heal from the pain. Take the bandages off. You gotta win. The stakes are high like a cannabis bomb. Okay, it's game time. Picture with the balls. That's a FaceTime. Great minds spreading faster than a rumor through the grapevine. Born and Derrick, deserve the merit. All salute. It's more than just a podcast. Shows like a movie. Born and Derrick, what up? Great minds think alike. It's the Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. It's the Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. It's the Great Minds Podcast. Great minds think alike. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast. You're now tuned into the Great Minds Podcast.